Bustin' makes me feel good.
So, Michael, which new Marvel series are you looking forward to the most? Let me just go through them first. Well, this just four of them.
How dare you assume I don't automatically know them all?
Oh, sorry. Come on, then tell me which one's your favourite.
Dr. Magneto and the Thousand Suns.
They haven't done that one yet. So we have Mrs. Marvel.
Okay.
Or Miss Marvel, rather. Secret Invasion.
Oh.
She-Hulk.
Okay.
And Ironheart.
These all... I don't know why, for some reason they all sound like 80s video games to me. Like I just imagine like you just get your Atari and you're just going to play a game of Ironheart.
Yeah, they all sound
Space
like
Invaders or whatever it was.
They all sound like knockoffs of other, like Miss Marvel is like Captain Marvel, Secret Invasion like Space Invaders, She-Hulk obviously a knockoff of Hulk, Ironheart a knockoff of Iron Man. Yeah,
it's like Ironheart. I don't know why. Ironheart. It sounds like there was this really bad like movie from the 90s called Dragonheart. I don't know why it makes you think about that, and I just remember that because it was like a very cheap looking TV thing, and it's just like I don't think anybody expects to load up the film Ironheart and get a rewarding cinematic or even televisual experience.
You know what? Marvel are going to try. I mean, that's the thing. Like, they've released a whole new bunch of stuff, even though Eternals didn't do so well. But that's not going to stop them. Nothing is stopping them. World domination is the only way this is going to go.
I guess the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the only true Eternal. Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke. And this week we are celebrating the release. I feel like it's been a while since we've been celebrating a release. I guess it was back with Halloween. The release of Ghostbusters Afterlife, or Ghostbusters 3 as I like to call it because I'm not an idiot, by looking at Ghostbusters, the original one. Not the one with women in it, which we've already reviewed. So Luke, wait and tell us a thing or two about Ghostbusters, the one with men in it.
Well, surely it would be Ghostbusters 4, Michael, this new release, because of course it's Ghostbusters 2. So, yeah, you were trying to be funny, but you were hilariously wrong.
Or, alternatively, I don't consider the 2016 Ghostbusters canon because it's got women in it. I consider it part of an alternative universe where... women.
You know what? Actually, you may have a point because remembering back to that film, I don't think the original Ghostbusters existed. It was like a reboot.
Well, and also Bill Murray was a cameo, actually.
Yeah, you know what?
It looks like I was right by accident.
Yeah, you were right by accident. This, I mean, it's called Ghostbusters Afterlife. It may as well just be Ghostbusters 3, and we will be predicting the Rotten Tomatoes score for Ghostbusters Afterlife after the end of this Ghostbusters review. But anyway, let's get on with said review. So, Ghostbusters is a 1984 American supernatural comedy film directed and produced by Ivan Reitman and written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis.
Imagine being called Reitman and you didn't write it.
It stars Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, Harold Ramis. I think it's called him Harold Ramis before. Was that a typo or did I just get that?
Yeah.
No, I did see.
It's probably because you were confusing him because he's so visually similar to Ving Rhames.
Of course, yes. Yeah, probably related. And of course, Rick Moranis as well. So, the movie was released on June the 8th, 1984, Michael, 37 years ago. Of course, this isn't an anniversary. We're doing it because of the upcoming release, as you said, of Ghostbusters Afterlife. But anyway, Michael, can you tell me what the budget was for Ghostbusters?
Well, this film has some pretty impressive CGI, which I assume in the 1980s cost billions of dollars. Also, I mean, I guess the film had an all-star cast. I'm not like an expert with my chronologies, but obviously I think this was post Caddyshack, so I think Bill Murray was established as a comedian kind of guy.
You think it was?
Well, I do. Sorry, it was post Caddyshack. There we go. And obviously Sigourney Weaver is already
she is a handsome woman.
Yeah, and was already very established as from that slapstick comedy Alien. So with all of that said, I mean, I think it was a lot of money. Like, I guess I'm going to guess this was like one of the most expensive films, if not the most expensive film of 1984. The issue is, what kind of money would it cost in 1984?
Okay, just guess, Michael.
60 million.
What the? Oh my God. Oh my, Jesus fucking Christ.
It's way too much.
Jesus, yes, it's way too much.
But you know what? I'm happy that
No. You went like 8, and I was like, oh, is he going to guess 18? And I was like, then it's 80. You were clearly thinking of 80.
I was thinking of 80 million. Yeah.
Imagine spending 60 million in 1984 for this. Oh my god. The budget was 25 to 30.
Okay, I wonder if it was the most expensive. I wonder if I was right about it being. I mean, it just seems like what other movies were they spending money on in 1984?
No, it is a lot of money. It's probably the equivalent of about 100 million today.
Yeah,
but anyway.
I must admit, to be honest, if I had like, I mean, I know that we've like spoken about movies from the 80s before, and I should kind of have an intuitive sense of like inflation in my head, but I don't.
Okay, well, can you tell me what the box office was?
10 billion. I mean, I assume it was a pretty decent success. I mean, I wish I actually knew when Ghostbusters 2 came out, because if I knew when it came out, I'd kind of like, I feel like I'd have like an idea of if it was a big success. I think they released Ghostbusters 2 sooner. I mean, I think it was a success. So let's say, so it cost 25 million. Let's times that by 5. I think making 5 times its money back, that's a big success, right? See, you're going to say it's too much. I know you're going to say it's too much, but I'm going to say it anyway. 125. No, it's too much.
It's not too much, you fucking idiots. It's too little. Oh my god, this is the fucking highest grossing comedy movie ever.
What is it?
Yeah, but I mean, up until a certain point, I'm not sure when it stopped it. The then highest grossing comedy ever. It was the number 1 film in theaters for 7 consecutive weeks.
I wonder what overtook it. I didn't know that, to be honest. I had no idea whether or not this film did particularly well financially. But 125 million.
So did you not fucking see all the merchandise that came out after this? The people dressing up as these 4 characters. The fucking. I just. Have you seen Stranger Things, Michael?
I have seen. Actually, no, I haven't seen Stranger Things. I just know about it.
Well, they dress up as Ghostbusters for Halloween, and I don't know. Maybe that was common, or maybe it wasn't. I'm not sure, but that was something that definitely stuck in my head. And I'm like, oh my god, come on! It's not just that you guessed 125 when it's 295, so almost 300 million. It's the fact that you thought, oh, it's too high. Like, come on, man! This was one of the most successful. It's an iconic movie, an absolute iconic movie, and you thought it would only gross like $100 million. Unbelievable.
It would translate to in modern money 332 million.
What would?
125 million. I went on the inflation calculator. I just wanted to. So how much did it actually make? Sorry,
295.
I wonder. Let's check that out. 295 in 2021 money. 785. Yeah, okay, that's within the realms of reason.
Yes, it is in the realms of reason. Yes, yeah, the highest grossing comedy movie ever at the time. But yeah, sorry, Michael, that has annoyed me that you were just so wrong.
Yeah,
I know it shouldn't.
I know. I'm sorry, Luke. I do. I feel like we often start our reviews off on a really negative note. When you think about it, don't we? Because I mean, first of all, you get me guessing the budget and the box office, which is always terrible. I mean, I feel like last time I was pretty much on. I remember doing good last time. And then we obviously get onto nitpicks. Well, actually, no, sorry. First of all, it's whether or not we liked the film.
Well, obviously, I'll just say it doesn't matter. It does not matter. I don't care. But for a second, it annoys me, and then I'm like, you know what? It does. Does it really matter? No, it doesn't. I should probably not get so annoyed by it. I should probably calm down. But anyway, did we like this movie? Did we like Ghostbusters? Yes, I did. I'm just saying. Yes, I did.
Oh,
did
really?
you?
Okay, yeah. It's usually you don't go first. No, yeah, I liked this movie. I didn't think it was like really hilariously funny. I'm just gonna come out and say that right now. I know that everyone's gonna hate me for this.
Blasphemy! Oh dear! Oh, you can't say that. Can't say that. I bet you prefer Lady Ghostbusters.
You know what? Genuinely, here's the thing. I was actually watching it and I was thinking to myself, like, I actually think possibly. Here's the thing. Okay, this is my take. Lady Ghostbusters had more actively cringy moments in it. So it had like lots of moments which were so unfunny they were cringy.
Yes.
But it possibly had more moments that actually made me laugh. Whereas this film, I was enjoying it throughout, but on a comedy level, it was kind of a bit of like just there wasn't like as much of an up and down. It was like it was kind of like consistently a little bit funny throughout from my perspective.
Well, the thing is, Michael, we talked before, we have a specific section for the comedy.
I know, yeah, sorry.
And you have just decided to deliver that in your... Again, I don't know how many times you want to mess up today, but you know what? We're on a roll here.
Yeah, but overall, I did like the film.
Well, that's good. Again, I liked it, and I'll talk about my views on the comedy later when we should talk about it, but let's first get into nitpicks. How many do you have?
2.
I've got 1, so that means I go first. So my nitpick, I mean, you said the CGI was quite good before.
I was not actually being serious.
Okay, thank you. That's good because I have put that as a nitpick.
Okay.
The CGI is quite bad. Again, it's 1984. I mean, particularly with the fucking cougars, whatever they are, the dogs, whatever the fuck they are. I think they're dogs. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, the demon dogs, the CGI ain't great. Could have been a lot better. I mean, actually, maybe it couldn't have because it was 1984. But yeah, some of those shots, not the best. But yeah, that was it. That was my one nitpick.
Okay, yeah. My first one's a really good one. So when Bill Murray is in charge of electrocuting those students, and he obviously doesn't electrocute the girl who he thinks is attractive, it's bold of him to assume that she doesn't like being electrocuted. Because you've got to bear in mind that electricity play, it is a legitimate kink that some people have, and I just think that it shouldn't be assumed that if you're attracted to somebody, you wouldn't want to see them experience the convulsions of an electric current going through them.
You know, well, that's really funny, Michael. You should have written that into Lady Ghostbusters in 2016.
Thank you, I know. Finally, or rather, secondly, and finally, nobody, like, okay, so when they get the call, the secretary, Velma, is really excited. She's like, oh, you've got a call. And I'm like, so has nobody, like, kind of been crank calling them? Like, are they just really going to assume that the first call they get after they put out all these goofy ads is, like, seriously, they're really going to get that excited about it right away? I'd be like, okay, let's go check it out.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. We should have had a couple of, like, prank phone calls, perhaps. Yeah, that's good. Maybe some missed opportunities.
Which I think, doesn't that happen in... Okay, I don't know, like, the concept... I'm just remembering... What a great movie. Where Melissa McCarthy's like, why don't you go back to your mum's basement where you live? She really tells him off.
Yeah, in Lady Ghostbusters. Yeah.
Yeah, better Ghostbusters.
Yeah, the better Ghostbusters. Yeah, the new and improved Ghostbusters. Yeah. I just love how I'm referring to it as Lady Ghostbusters. I just find
I really think we should just refer to this as Man Ghostbusters.
Man Ghostbusters. Okay, so on to Man Ghostbusters. So it was, of course, inspired, this movie, by Dan Aykroyd, who, has famously said, like, aliens won't talk to humans, especially after 9/11. So yeah, basically from the crazy brain of Dan Aykroyd, some brilliance. Oh, you don't know any of this?
Well, okay, so here's the thing. I know Dan Aykroyd had the whole crazy thing with, like, the because he does the Crystal Skull vodka.
This haven't seen that clip of him saying that thing about 9/11?
I have. I've also seen the 9/11 clip, but this is where I was kind of like, are you actually saying though that Dan Aykroyd has always had these crazy ideas, and that that's actually where this film came from? Because I'd always kind of assumed okay, because basically, I mean, the reason why I was kind of thinking the opposite is because, like, I know, like, a lot of the time celebrities, they get big and then they go crazy, like Tom Cruise. It's not like he started off as a Scientologist.
Or Kumail Nanjiani.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, basically, so I was kind of thinking with Dan Aykroyd, it was like once he became kind of a washed up weirdo who used to be in comedies back in the 80s, then he kind of went crazy. But no, he was always crazy. That's interesting. You know what? Good on him getting in there early. Yeah.
I realise that thing with Kumail Nanjiani, it could mean it with two ways, like him, just his stardom, and also the fact that he got really big with his fucking muscles,
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is really big.
Injected steroids. Apparently he doesn't even do anything in Eternals, which is just great. But anyway, Dan Aykroyd had this fascination and belief in the paranormal, and this was inherited from his father, who wrote the book A History of Ghosts. His mother, who claimed she had seen ghosts. I mean, it's quite predictable.
Shouldn't it be called The Present of Ghosts, seeing as they're not actually dead?
A grandfather who experimented with using radios to contact the dead, and a great-grandfather, a renowned spiritualist. Jesus Christ, what a weird family the Aykroyd family was. In 1981, he read an article on quantum physics and parapsychology in the Journal of the American Society for Physical Research, which gave him the idea of trapping ghosts. It would have come... and that's what I think. It would have to have come from a mind like that, this concept. But is it inherently interesting? It's like a great idea, just waiting to be put into practice, And that's what I think this is. Like, you're catching ghosts, you're going around and basically, because everyone's scared of ghosts.
Yes.
But you're catching them, and that's your business. Ghostbusters, just a fantastic idea.
It makes sense, because it's like they do the whole emergency services thing with, like, the fireman's pole and the siren thing. It's kind of like, I guess it makes sense that that if, like, it's like, well, if there's a fireman, or rather a fire, if there's a fire, you call the fire brigade. So if there's a ghost, you call the ghost brigade.
Yes. Originally, Aykroyd's version took place in the future, with many groups of intergalactic Ghostbusters. So he went quite crazy with this. Ivan Reitman, of course, the director, felt it would have cost something like $200 million to make.
Oh, so they still would have made their money back.
Yeah, they still, well, with marketing, I don't know. But
yeah.
Aykroyd's original 70 to 80 page script treatment was far more serious in tone and intended to be scary. And again, knowing about the guy, that makes sense. He wanted to take this seriously. Like, he believed all of it. Maybe I don't know, but I mean, it was a massive success, so maybe he wasn't annoyed that it got changed to a comedy. And maybe he was just happy that the movie got made in the first place. But yeah, definitely this was a very different movie when it first pops up in the mind of Dan Aykroyd. And so Ivan Reitman met with Aykroyd and explained his concept would be impossible to make. He suggested setting it entirely on Earth, and that would make the extraordinary elements more humorous. And if they focused on realism from the beginning, then the Marshmallow Man would be more believable by the end.
Okay, hold on a minute. That gives the impression that he thought that in the original script there was a giant marshmallow man.
I think so. I think we have to conclude that.
That's fantastic.
Reitman also wanted to detail the Ghostbusters origins before starting their business, saying, "This was the beginning of the 1980s. Everyone was going into business." Of course he wanted that in. Of course. We'll get onto that later, fucking Ivan Reitman. But anyway, yeah, so a good choice to go down this comedic path, because if this was a serious movie, this would not have done so well. I mean, this is from Wikipedia. Ghostbusters was released to critical acclaim and became a cultural phenomenon. It was well received for its blend of comedy, action, and horror, and for Bill Murray's performance that was often singled out for praise. By the way, it's the second highest grossing film of 1984.
Wow, that's crazy.
Was Terminator 1, maybe? I'm not sure.
Yeah, Terminator.
But yeah, anyway, so Ghostbusters, again, a really great idea, and then Ivan Reitman puts it into this, he takes his concept and makes it work, basically. And, you have Bill Murray, it's a comedy movie, it was going to be a really big success, and obviously it was. So into the plot of the movie, Michael. So basically, it's a group of failed scientists, doctors. They start this business, which is successful right off the bat, really. That's the thing. They go into business, a bit of a slow start, but then it gets going.
That's male privilege for you.
Well, I'll get onto that. And then, something, I guess, big happens with, the paranormal activity, and they've got to solve, something, and, they swoop in to save the day, and then they're all heroes. Of course, Venkman gets the girl. Very, very simple plot, really. I guess the plot hole, if you will, is that as soon as they go into business, all of a sudden, there's a fucking massive threat to
that is a
New
good
York
point,
City.
actually. Yeah, they never really they don't justify that as why.
No.
Yeah,
no, but again, it's like a fairly typical kind of.
Yeah, I guess it's like the consistent Superman, or rather superhero problem, isn't it?
Yeah, they are kind of like superheroes. Yeah. You that is the superhero problem as well. Like, you start, okay, we've established this, but we can't just keep on busting ghosts. There needs to be a big threat at the end of the movie, and it's just a coincidence that this big threat has to coincide with this, with this formation of this Ghostbusters group in this instance, to get this into a 2-hour movie. But yeah, no, that's it. What do you have to say on the overall plot, Michael?
I mean, obviously, the plot is, I agree with you, it is very simple. It's kind of like, I would say it's kind of, it's easy to watch, I think, because it's kind of just like everything logically follows. There's no real moment that feels kind of tortured in terms of like being stretched out or anything like that, which is kind of nice. But then at the same time, I mean, actually, the flip side is it could possibly have benefited, I think, like you're kind of touching on with the their rise. It feels like that happens sort of, not in a way that gets you very invested. You're just like, oh, okay, actually, it's like basically they're spending money. There's one scene where they've eaten Chinese food and they don't have any money left, and then literally as that happens, it's like, boom, they've got cool, and then suddenly, they're basically fine.
It's I agree. Yeah. I agree, and we'll get into that later. So anyway, the script. Let's get into this. So the setup, university professors who get kicked out of I think it's New York University, is it? That would make sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just say that. I like that. That's a nice thing to start off because it gives them a chip on their shoulder, a reason for them to succeed. Like, people think they're quacks, so, they're going against something and they're not just being successful, they have doubters.
People think they're crazy conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, yeah, but it's specifically like they have been shunned from polite society. And, they could have just had them immediately in business, and we don't get that backstory, so I do like that. And, of course, right at the start, we also get the fact that, we see a ghost there firsthand, an old librarian. So we know as the audience that they aren't full of BS, and they are onto something. Of course, that's when you're thinking going in, ghosts don't really exist. So, there's a ghost in the first 5 minutes. So these guys are right on. And that was a bit disappointing, because I do wonder whether it would have been better if we see the first full ghost 30 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a suspicious idea in the background.
Yeah, because then it's like, ghosts exist then. And if you build up to it more, then it becomes more impactful when you see the ghosts.
Because, I do get you, actually.
Yeah, the audience member, you're going in, it's like, okay, so ghosts do exist in this universe. And it would be better.
And I think also, just it's not even necessarily about just acknowledging that it exists, but also kind of like the fact that the ghosts are sort of what makes this interesting. So within that context, just to have them introduced so kind of matter-of-factly, if they're just walking around a library and they just see one, is a little bit like, you're going to introduce, the thing that sets this universe apart, just like, here it is.
Yeah, just take out the interesting concept
understated, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's a little critique, I guess. And so, of course, Ivan Reitman was central to this. He explained, hey, it's the 80s, everyone's starting businesses. Yeah. They aren't working for the government in some capacity, and that is an interesting choice because I think it would have worked either way, but, obviously Reitman, for ideological reasons, wanted them to be a private business. And it does, allow for some comedy, with nobody calling them up and, getting together this ragtag outfit and, they're desperate for calls so they can make money, so they can keep this thing going. And, they've got the Hearst, and they're setting up in this old fire department. I guess it could have been worked if they'd been hired, by the government in some way.
That's true.
They are neglected because nobody cares about them and thinks they are quacks. They're not given very good facilities and they're kind of looked down upon. The city of New York hired them for some reason. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's I think it probably works a bit more with them.
But Luke, vital government workers are never underpaid.
Okay. So, there's the thing. I look at that and I'm like, it could have worked either way. Reitman's like, no, they've got to be a business, but I can see this, whatever the situation is. That's the thing, superheroes, when they do their work, for instance, Batman, of course, he's rich on his own. He works with the fucking cops, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
When he does his shit. And he's technically, obviously it's a bit more complicated and there's some things you could say about Batman, being a vigilante and all, but he's works with the government, and so you could have kind of have something like that. But yeah, the private bit. There are quite a few lines where it's like, this is you're on private property, pal. That's what Bill Murray says.
Yeah,
it's like and of course, that keeps popping up, and we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Venkman, Michael. Venkman. So I think, of course, played by Bill Murray, great character. That's the thing. He only cares about money and women. And that is a great contrast with the enthusiastic, obviously, stance, and of course Harold Ramis. He's quite into all the tech stuff, and Venkman couldn't care less about the ghosts, and I'd appreciate maybe some more conflict with stance.
Yeah,
but I do like it. I think that was one of the problems looking back with the 2016 Lady Ghostbusters.
Yes,
because there was no Venkman, and I think back to those characters, everyone was enthusiastic about doing this job.
Yeah, they were really having fun.
Yeah, and a central plank of, it's not really they were having fun. It was they were really loved that they were Ghostbusters. We love it because of the science and all of that. And of course, Aykroyd fulfills that role, but there's no Venkman really in Lady Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And a central plank of the comedy in this movie is Venkman just doesn't really care much about the ghosts, about the situation. He just wants to, he just wants to be done with it and, go about his day, basically.
No, I do agree. It's kind of like,
He just wants to get the girl, really. That's his main motivation.
Yeah, that's true. Basically, he could literally be in any film, and he'd basically still be the exact same character. If anything, he literally, in a way, it's kind of like he could this guy, it could be that he actually finds out that he keeps dying and waking up and starting the day all over again, and he'd still just be reacting like regular old Bill Murray. Overall, I think it's it's funny, which is another thing, but definitely in terms of like tonally, it obviously works because it's basically a reminder that it's kind of a comedy when you have a character who's just not taking it too seriously, and I also think it does. I guess it's kind of like it means that you don't have to be super invested, because we're kind of speaking about how like with the ghost just appearing and it's a bit just like understated, that means it's not necessarily as exciting as it could be. But I guess the flip side is that when you have Bill Murray or Venkman rather just kind of acting bored and disinterested for the whole film, it's like, oh, okay, this isn't really a film where you're supposed to get like really excited. So I guess that kind of it complements some of the rest of the film and how it plays out.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah, does it complement the rest of the film, Michael? Does it?
Well, I mean, I would say most of the this film, it doesn't really, like, obviously we say Venkman doesn't really care. I feel like in a way this film, it doesn't really seem like in terms of the plot this film care. See, saying it doesn't care seems like first of all, not a nice thing, and second of all, a bit of a weird thing to say. But it's kind of like the film, it feels like something about just the progression of the film feels not lazy, but kind of like casual. Like the film's just kind of...
Okay, that's a good way to phrase things.
Yeah.
Casual. Yeah, not lazy.
No,
we couldn't call it lazy, could we?
No.
But anyway, so the Ghostbusters are hired to remove the ghost Slimer from Sedgwick Hotel. Having failed to properly test their equipment, they capture the ghost and deposit it under the firehouse. And that's the thing, like they do it successfully, and this basically kicks off them being effective at their job.
Yeah.
And again, I would maybe like to see them like fail.
Yeah.
Like it's their first go and they're successful. And maybe
maybe they go to the New York Underground and they see a ghost and then they try to do it, but then the stream doesn't go far enough and one goes wah wah. That's what happens in the real Ghostbusters.
That'd be really funny. But yeah, and they just mess up this hotel and they don't catch the ghost.
Yeah.
And then but that's the thing. It's like, oh, I mean, this is why you said casual. The plot of the word, and just it's very casual. Oh, we're going to catch the ghost. Oh, we've done it, and then they get national recognition very easily. They're on magazines and stuff. It happens so quickly, and it just feels like, oh, okay, fine. So, well, I guess that happened then. That was very easy for them. Yeah, and it's just not that great, to be honest. Again, you expect a couple more hurdles in their way again, but it's not lazy, Michael, because it's casual. But yeah, so it's basically supernatural activity increases across the city. Again, this goes back to what we were saying. Doesn't appear to be a plot hole at first, but it's awfully convenient that this activity increases rapidly as soon as they get fired from the university and they start their own business. But I guess you could call it male privilege, Michael, all you want, but that's the free market, baby.
That's true. Yeah.
All skill, no luck. There's a bunch of ghosts that need catching, and they're there at the right time. No luck at all. And so that's how you do it.
They pulled themselves up by their bootstraps.
They really, really did. All their own hard work. So there you go. And yeah, basically, I like how by the way, like people are calling the Ghostbusters and they're this phenomenon. And people just like accept that ghosts exist. Like it's all about like these three men going into business rather than the fact that fucking ghosts exist.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of just like I find that funny too. It's just like we're like, yep, just ghosts are real. It's kind of like, I mean, I feel like with
it's the 1980s though, Michael, so it's all about the business. Who cares about the fucking ghosts and the science? Oh, these people are making money in an interesting way. Let's talk about them.
I feel like in the 2016 one, it's kind of weird to compare it to the 2016 one but yeah, basically it's kind of funny because in the 2016 one there is this whole thing about like, I think like them not being taken seriously and the whole ghost not even existing thing is, I think, much more prominent in the 2016 one. And I can't really remember exactly where it is that it does become accepted that ghosts exist, but it might not even be like, I think even towards the end of the film, there are still people who are like, ghosts don't exist. Like, I don't think it ever reaches the point where it's just like everybody just accepts that ghosts exist.
No, I think that's the right way to go about things. It's just, the rest of the movie is kind of a car crash.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like, they're struggling early on. That's good. And of course that...
Yeah, I also think having female representation is the right way to do things. Sorry, I know you didn't mention that. I just think that's an important thing to bear in mind.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. There is female representation. The fucking secretary is female.
Yeah. She sounds so much like Velma. That's why I called her Velma. I
thought that was maybe her name. No. Anyway, so while that montage is playing...
Dun, 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 dun.
That's what I was going to say. We have the Ghostbusters song in the background. It does play a bit at the start, but of course, in the middle. And what a great song. It's crazy how iconic it is. And do you know what, Michael? I'm going to... You don't need to keep doing that because I'm going to play it. I'm just going to enjoy it. Here we go.
Okay. I actually feel like this is the kind of thing which can get you... just, you never can tell, but...
I mean, it's a massive reason why this movie is such a classic. I mean,
like everyone knows this.
Yeah, they get everything around the outside, like the logo, they get that right.
Yeah. Do you know Jedward?
They get the song, yeah.
Did you know that Jedward sung this song on X Factor?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like a whole thing about I remember Jedward.
By the way, Michael, that is such ingenious. Like, they got some kids, I think maybe it's kids, I don't know, chanting Ghostbusters at the end. Who are you going to call? Not instead of just saying it, and I ain't even afraid of no ghost. Oh, it's
because
so
the kids
iconic.
are answering. Also, here's the weird thing, like, in the trailer to the Ghostbusters Afterlife, there's like a perfect moment where they could drop like the original, and they just play some like kind of messed up version of it. And I actually remember like somebody went back and edited it so that it just plays the original. Because it's like, I don't really understand why they don't just, considering how iconic the song is, it's weird that the 2016 and 2021 attempts to kind of reboot it seem to have bizarrely shied away from just having the original song just play out as it is. People don't want to hear like some weird remix version of it. They want the classics.
Yeah, I mean, how could you improve on this?
Oh, ghosts. Actually, tell you what, you say how could you improve on it? There's a guy who edits it, so it's like just keep saying, "Bustin' makes me feel good," and he's like, "When it's something strange in your bed, bustin' makes me feel good." So,
okay. Can we get to that? Come on, where is it?
What, the bustin' makes me feel good bit?
Yeah, I'm waiting for that.
It's right towards the end because I freaky ghost.
Oh my god, it is really at the end. But anyway, shout out to Ray Parker Jr.
Yeah, that's true.
He was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Song, and was later sued by Huey Lewis for allegedly paraphrasing Lewis, "I want a new drug," or plagiarizing, sorry.
I want a new drug.
I don't care.
I can't even think of where they did similarity, actually.
I mean,
do you like Huey Lewis in the news?
I don't care.
Yeah.
If he was plagiarizing.
Yeah, I mean, so did it actually? Not that it really matters, but obviously people can sue and then it's wrong or it doesn't actually go through. So who knows? Maybe they didn't even.
Ghostbusters. Right, come on. Please say, "Busting makes me feel good."
I really need some.
Oh no! Fuck! Stop.
Anyway, the important thing is it's a good song.
It is a good song, and you know what? Again, we spent a lot of time on it. I'll say it again, but it was worth it because it is a great song. By the way, I just checked on the. I said before, a lot of kids, on the cultural influence of this movie, and apparently, yes, a lot of kids did go to Halloween in 1984 as Ghostbusters. It was dominated by children dressed as the titular protagonists. It had a significant effect on popular culture, and it's credited with inventing the special effects-driven comedy. It's
credited with Reagan's second term.
Yes, exactly. But anyway, how many times are we going to refer to that before we get into it? We're close. We're very close. So I do want to point out another thing, Michael, that the Ghostbusters are kind of anti-women. Supernatural. Anti-women. Yeah, they are. But they're also anti-supernatural because they are basically like garbage. I say that because it's an American movie, obviously, and I want to respect their culture.
Garbage busters.
Garbage removal men. That's what they are. They treat it like it's just any other job, especially, of course, what's he called? Winston. There we go. They just do what they got to do. Real blue collar stuff.
They're just on that grind.
Basically. I guess actually grey collar stuff technically, Michael. But that's the thing. It's like pest control. I mean, they make a joke about like, oh, we're here to get cockroaches, but it's just cockroaches, but instead it's ghosts, which I think is interesting because and maybe Lady Ghostbusters does this as well. It like leans into the whole,
it's just a business,
it's supernatural. But this, it's just a business. It's just a business, and of course that can create like a good comedic tone you're setting with the ridiculousness of the ghosts, and then also you just like trying to do your job. Oh yeah, like it's it's another fucking day, like a very mundane task, like capturing these ghosts. But then that's the thing. I mean, that's more comedy. But yeah, I thought
it kind of reminds me of how in Supernatural, the obviously show about two brothers who drive around hunting paranormal or indeed supernatural entities and the like. They have like this thing where they just have basically a magic credit card that lets them get as much money as they like. So it basically allows it to effectively completely skirt around how it is they're able to sustain themselves when their whole job is just driving around hunting ghosts, which within the context of the supernatural universe most people don't even believe in, whereas this film's very much the opposite. It's like, no, we're really going to lean into the fact this needs to be a business. In Supernatural they can just be like, nah, it's not a business, we just have a magic credit card that just gets us as much money as we need, don't need to charge anyone, just show up, be a bunch of good old bros and just get them demons. This is different.
Yeah, is that a comedy?
Actually, no. Well, it's one of those like
yes or no. Yes or no.
It's a dramcom.
Oh right,
comedy drama.
So that's a no. Anyway, so after Winston is hired to cope with the growing number of cases, the plot kind of comes to a natural standstill, I think. And they're established, they're famous. So two things are kind of injected into the script at this point. The EPA guy gets involved, wants to snoop around.
Yes.
I mean, the damn EPA! How dare they? How dare they? These people have got nuclear reactors on their back, and the EPA wants to fucking stop them, or at least like regulate them, for fuck's sake. And again, it's comical how like ridiculous he is when he shuts it down.
Yeah,
later. They're saying, "Hey, it's going to cause a big explosion. Don't do this," and he still does it because the damn EPA is just too dumb.
It's literally you know what a straw man is, right?
Yes. Yeah. But that's more political stuff.
Yeah, it is political. Yeah.
But we'll get into that later. And also back to the other thing that's injected into the script along with the EPA is that Egon, of course, Harold Ramis, warns that the containment unit is nearing capacity and supernatural energy is surging across the city. And of course, Sigourney Weaver gets attacked when she returns home. She is possessed by Zool. A Zool, an entity.
It's funny because you're from the north.
How do you say it then?
I think I say it actually the same as you. Zool. I don't know. It's just Zool. I think we kind of say it the same. It just sounds, even though we're saying it, we're functionally saying pretty much the same sounds. It's just because with you, it's got that slight northern twang. I just think it makes Zool.
Zool. Well, I can Zool.
Yeah. Zool.
Zool.
It's almost Zool doesn't even feel like a word anymore, does it?
No, and of course, an entity possesses her neighbor Louis Tully. And of course, Peter Venkman arrives and finds that Zool is, of course, well, it isn't fucking Sigourney Weaver. It's fucking Zool now. And yeah, she's the gatekeeper. And is this a good time to talk about the romance, Michael? Because you wanted to talk about this?
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on the fact that it's kind of funny. Well, there's two things. So I'll start with the good thing. First of all, obviously, when Sigourney Weaver is possessed by somebody else, when her body is possessed by somebody else, Bill Murray goes out of his way to not have sex with her. And I thought it was interesting that this film has better sexual politics than Wonder Woman 1984, considering they were both set in the same year. But this film, which was actually made in the 1980s, was like, well, we can't have a guy sleep with a woman when she's controlled by somebody else's consciousness. But Wonder Woman 1984 was like, it's fine, it doesn't matter, just use his body.
No. Difference is fucking guy is a man.
I know, exactly.
Wonder Woman sleeps with, so that's okay.
Yeah,
that's
fine.
Okay. That's all right. No issue there. The audience will accept that. Sorry, man.
I was just gonna say, and it's slightly critical, but it's a minor criticism in terms of it doesn't really bother me. It's just kind of a thing which I think you noticed in the 1980s, which is like the way that you express a guy's romantic interest in a woman is just by having him annoy her for like the first couple of scenes that they see each other. I just think that's like, it's a very kind of 1980s thing, I think. I can't think of any examples, so don't even ask me to, but it's just like...
Well, it's because if they like each other right off the bat,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where's the drama? You've got to have him annoy her, so eventually... So it's a process. So it's a process to get there, yeah. But yeah, okay, good point on the Wonder Woman stuff.
Oh yeah, thank you. I was thinking about it.
She's a fucking superhero.
I know,
as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, that takes us back to that. That was a great review.
Yeah.
Anyway, so also, of course, Louis, Sigourney Weaver's neighbour, is brought to Egon by police officers claiming he is Vince Clotho, the Keymaster. So basically, we have a bit of a mystery on our hands now.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because of the genre. Ghosts are all mysterious. But then I was a bit disappointed because, of course, Louis then escapes when the EPA guy comes in and blows everything up, and then basically Harold Ramis reveals that Dana's building was designed by Ivo Shandor, leader of a Gozer-worshipping cult, to function as an antenna to attract and concentrate spiritual energy to summon Gozer and bring about the apocalypse. Again, a bit of a plot hole. It happens as soon as the Ghostbusters get their business up and running, but that's what happens, I guess. But yeah, it's just like, they solve the mystery quite quickly. There's no like real investigation. It's like, well, what's happening here? Well, one scene later, actually, we know what's going on. So yeah, all that stuff is now explained. And I think they had more time to maybe make it a bit more mysterious.
Not too much intrigue.
Yeah, I know. They could have made it more intriguing, especially ghosts and stuff. It's all mysterious and that, but they're really not interested in the supernatural element really that much in this, which is of course quite ironic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, poor Dan Aykroyd. He really got screwed.
Yeah, I know. It's just this is what happens. Well, I guess we'll have to deal with it. Okay, let's go, lads. And of course they get called in by the mayor, who releases them. And we get the ending, the iconic ending. Gozer basically demands the Ghostbusters choose the form of the Destructor, and Ray inadvertently recalls a beloved corporate mascot from his childhood, and Gozer reappears in the form of a gigantic, puffed marshmallow man that begins destroying the city, which I think is, it's famous, it's iconic.
Yes, it is.
And it works well, I think. It's naturally funny.
Yes.
And it makes sense. And yeah, I don't know what more to say than that. Of course, it's a very famous scene, but it's good, Michael.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is I knew of the fact that this film had the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in it before I'd actually seen the film. And I do remember when I watched the film for the first time, which was actually before we're reviewing it now, or well, obviously, like a while before we're reviewing it now is what I mean. But yeah, when I watched it for the first time, I remember thinking to myself, that's actually quite clever how I always just thought it was kind of like some random thing. And I know it's kind of a random thing, but it's like explained, and it is quite, I guess you could say it's a bit just like, choose the form of your destructor, but it's why shouldn't you say that? So basically, within that context, yeah, it makes sense. You just imagine something, gives them free reign to come up with something pretty silly, and you know what? They come up with something pretty darn silly, and I think that's what you want in your comedy.
I know. Great idea. Really, really great. And of course, they cross their streams together as a team at the end of the movie to destroy the portal or whatever. I don't fucking know. It doesn't matter. And I guess that's it's a decent ending as well. And they reincorporate the fact that you can't cross streams. They cross streams at the end because they have to. And yeah, obviously Sigourney Weaver survives as well, which I don't know. I don't think. And of course, fucking what was he called? Rick Moranis. Yes. I don't think they should be able to. I think of course it's a pretty stupid movie in terms of how it treats the laws of physics, but based on what we've seen, it should probably be dead as well. But whatever, who cares? It's a kids' movie, Michael.
No, I agree. Yeah, like basically, it's not really surprising, especially seeing as like the two people who, I don't know. I mean, Rick Moranis, he really can't die because he's just too lame and pathetic for the entire movie.
I thought you were going to say lovable. Then.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like in a way, he's kind of like lovable in a lame way. Like you wouldn't want to see. It wouldn't really be very appropriate to have like your kind of goofy character just die.
Is he the inspiration for Austin Powers? I don't know. Maybe. That's what I was thinking when I was watching. But anyway, so that's the movie. Again, quite a simple plot, really. And let's get on to what really made this movie, I guess, iconic. It's the comedy. And you said you didn't find it that funny, Michael.
Yeah,
but I'll just tell you my point of view before you jump in. I think it's decent. Most of the comedic elements, at least the one-liners, is Bill Murray. Basically, he does like 90% of the one-liners. And he's just delivering them deadpan, being dry and sarcastic, and that could be worse. Some of them are witty and decent. Others, aren't that good, but some of them are quite funny. Like, this man has no dick. Is like, see, you laughed at how can you say Lady Ghostbusters is funnier, Michael? How dare you? But
because they literally do have no dicks.
That is true. That'd be good if they reincorporated that somehow.
That is true, yeah.
And I think in the second half of the movie, like, more of these one-liners are deployed. Like, it's really ramped up.
Yeah.
Like, it's like 80% are in the second half with Bill Murray delivering his one-liners. But yeah, he just has such a kind of nihilistic, carefree attitude about things. And, he's the straight man with all of this craziness going on around him. And, if you deliver some good lines, naturally it's going to be funny. and that's what it is. Although my favourite line has to be, it's not from Bill Murray. Do you know which one it is, Michael?
Ooh, it's not from Bill Murray.
It's not from Bill Murray. I don't know. I just like this line. Is it?
Okay, you know what? I couldn't even guess actually. So no.
All right. So it's from Winston. When at the end of the movie,
You know, actually, I was going to guess it was from Winston.
All right, Dan Aykroyd says, because he has a couple of good lines.
Yeah.
But my favourite one is when Dan Aykroyd is like, "No, I'm not a ghost," and Winston says, "If someone asks, sorry, are you a god?"
Yeah, sorry,
and Winston
God, yeah.
says, "If someone asks, are you a god? You say yes."
Yes.
And I thought in that context that was very funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's what I feel like. The one-liners there, a slight chuckle every now and then. And some of them aren't so good, but overall pretty damn good, I will say.
Yeah, here's an observation. When you say Dan Aykroyd, you make it sound like 3 syllables.
Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, okay. No, now you're making it sound like 2 syllables. But like when you're just talking, and this leads me to believe that it's kind of a natural thing. You kind of like you go a bit Italian. You go Dan Aykroyd.
Oh,
Dan Aykroyd did this.
Dan Aykroyd.
Hey, look,
yeah.
it's a Dan Aykroyd. And I find it very entertaining.
I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I just thought I just couldn't help but point out. No, yeah, I mean the thing with the comedy is, I guess it's so. First of all, what you'll notice with this film is it's very kind of sarcastic comedy, which is the thing is it's funny, but a lot of it isn't like. It's kind of a comedy where it almost like washes over you. Because I was kind of thinking about when you mentioned the whole "this man has no dick" line. And I laughed. And I think it's because in a weird way, when you say the line just out loud, it's a really funny line. And yet the strange thing is, when I actually watch it in the film, I don't react to it, really. And I feel like it's because even though it's on some level very funny how deadpan it is, it's sort of like, it doesn't kind of connect. It's like I can tell it's funny intellectually, but it's like on the unlocking that kind of emotional sense of haha, it doesn't quite hit, which is weird because there definitely is like deadpan comedy, which I do find funny. But there's something weird about this comedy where it is like, even when I can be like, that's funny, I don't actually find myself really feeling amused. It's almost like I don't experience the humor in quite the same way, even when I acknowledge it.
Is it the fact that it's trying to be clever? That's the thing. It's clever comedy.
Yeah, I think that's probably it.
And, that can be... That's the thing, you can appreciate it more. That's why I think a slight chuckle is the correct response. It's like, that was good.
Yeah, I think that's it, yeah, basically.
That's a really funny line to say in that situation. And, you really made you made a comedic joke. Well, of course, a comedic joke. You made a joke about, this situation, to try and release the tension. That it's just inherently decent comedy, but there's nothing... that laugh out loud.
Yeah.
For me
the other thing is, I've been watching. After we watched Stripes, I was interested, so I watched a few other kind of like 1980s comedies of this type. So I watched like the National Lampoon's Vacation and Stripes, and I also watched Groundhog Day. And what I found is in all of them, I was like, this isn't unenjoyable, but like all of them, I was like, I'm not actually. I feel like I almost feel like I could say, and obviously when you're on your own, you don't usually laugh, like it's kind of weird. But the thing is, like with a decent number of comedies, I feel like you said before, you don't usually laugh, like out loud at stuff, even when you find it funny. Me personally, I would say a decent amount of the time, I will actually watch something where even when I'm on my own, I will get a little bit tickled and I'll kind of like at least smile to myself, like, that was funny. Whereas when I was watching these kind of like, I watched, made my way through a decent number of these kind of 1980s, early 1990s films of this type. And I actually was like, I don't think I laughed once. I don't think I had like a single moment of like, haha, that was funny. I had moments of like, that was funny. But I didn't have any moments of, haha, that was funny. So I don't know. It's probably, I feel like it could also be a cultural thing. A lot of this, I mean, I know you mentioned recently that you were watching Seinfeld a lot. I feel like a lot of this stuff is like, it's characters who kind of act like they're above everything. Like Bill Murray kind of acts like he's above everything in this film, which I think like from a lot of the time in British comedy, it's kind of like characters getting embarrassed and like dunked on, like characters getting dunked on by the situation around them.
To be fair, you mentioned Seinfeld. That's literally what happens to George Costanza in every episode.
Okay, yeah.
And that, to be fair, the funniest I have laughed at Seinfeld is George Costanza.
Yeah, so that's it. British people love to see people fail.
I don't think it's. I mean, maybe it's British. I have no idea.
I don't know, yeah.
But he's just such a funny character, and he's so different to fucking Seinfeld. And it's. I don't want to talk about Seinfeld.
No, yeah,
we'll save that for the Pope is Gay.
Yeah.
But,
overall, no, it's funny.
Definitely, there is like, I guess, Bill Murray occupies the carefree role. You don't really have a George Costanza in this. That would have made it even better.
Yeah.
If you had a George Costanza as one of the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
But there's only one George Costanza.
For the joke.
That's for sure.
Actually, I had one other thing, which was right at the end when they rescue. You mentioned obviously getting the people out of the dog statues or whatever. When they were getting out Sigourney Weaver, I remember thinking to myself, I kind of thought to myself, I wonder if it's going to be Rick Moranis, and it's going to be like they're getting in it, and then they just find him there, and it was like a minor thing, but I was expecting that to happen, and it didn't.
That would have been good. That would have been good. I also think when they came, so when they're coming down, to be at the end of the movie to be celebrated by the whole of New York, like they're about to go onto the street, and the camera's out there. Maybe Bill Murray will say a line about, well, everybody's out there, and the cameras are there, so let's make sure we all look good. And of course, the joke is they're covered in fucking marshmallow stuff, and and maybe someone like brushes a bit of like dirt off their shoulder.
Yeah, that'd be it. Yeah, like kind of just somebody was like, I just need to fix my hair or something.
Yeah, just fix your hair. We'll just get that for you. Right. Okay, we're ready. Let's go. But yeah, that again. So I think there's some maybe opportunities kind of missed. But overall, yeah, it's like casually funny. Like it's a very easy watch.
I got a good one. They could be covered in mess, but obviously Sigourney Weaver isn't. And then Sigourney Weaver, okay, let's go out and see the camera. And then Bill Murray, are you sure? You don't have your makeup done? And it's like, because he looks ridiculous, man.
That'd be a bit too
a bit too sexist.
I mean, no, I wasn't going to say a bit too sexist. I was going to say a bit too try hard.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Bill Murray, it isn't very try. That seems a bit too try hard, but it could work.
What if he looked into the camera and it went wah wah?
Anyway, I want to talk about Dan Aykroyd getting a blowjob from the ghost. That is remembered. That of course it does come out of left field, and the thing is, the thing is, of course,
kids. Everyone acts, Halloween.
Yes, okay. Everyone acts stupid in Lady Ghostbusters, and therefore the tone isn't good, and the overall comedic, I guess, level decreases because of that, and because they're all wacky and zany and stupid. And this was the one moment where that really happens in the movie, but of course it's in a dream, and the thing is, it's in a montage as well, so you can get away with it really. And also it's just one moment too, and like they skip past that, and of course it's kind of a wink and a nod to the audience or the adult audience, more than anything. But yeah, that's the thing. Like I talked about it before, of course, in the plot, but the movie makes fun of the ridiculous nature of what they're doing by having them play it really straight and like their pest control. Yeah, although to be fair,
you say play it straight, but we don't know if that ghost might have been a man.
Okay. Great, that's funny. But yeah, that's the thing. And the tone is so different to Lady Ghostbusters, where everything has to be zany and stuff, and that is really where the two movies differ a lot. And of course, the Venkman character. It's easy to see why this movie is. I mean, maybe they didn't want to recreate it so much, but they had to know going into the fucking Lady Ghostbusters movie, it wasn't going to turn out great, considering surely the two central planks of the comedy, fucking Venkman and the overall tone of the Ghostbusters, if you take those two out, that then one of the reasons why it's beloved and people find it so funny, even if we don't so much, that's going to disappear. So yeah, again, that was dumb. But yeah, let's get on to talking about capitalism.
Yes, finally, the real thing, the real spectre haunting America.
Yeah, because the thing is, I knew about this beforehand. People say, "Oh, what's one movie that's conservative that doesn't seem it?" And it's like Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And then you're like, "Well, let's watch it." And there are a couple of moments where I'm like, "Oh yeah, you can tell the people behind it really are quite right wing." So capitalism and private industry on Wikipedia in the fucking Ghostbusters movie. I mean, you know what? They should stop shoving their politics into our movies, Michael, and just let us enjoy stuff. That's what I say. So basically. The film has been analysed as an era-appropriate example of Republican, Libertarian, or neoliberal ideology, in particular Reagan-era economics, popularised by Ronald Reagan. Reaganomics focused on limited government spending and regulation in favour of the free market, provided by the private sector of entrepreneurship, profit, and all of that great stuff which we love and that we're still not suffering the effects of fucking 40 years later. Analysts point to the premise of a small private business obstructed by an arrogant, incompetent bureaucrat from a government agency. Peck's interference compromises the Ghostbusters containment unit, unleashing spirits upon the city, ushering in Ghost's arrival. There you go. The government are so incompetent, and they step in and they hurt the Ghostbusters business, just a private business doing well, making money, and they also hurt the city as well at large. So yeah, that's pretty damn obvious. When Peck arrives to shut the Ghostbusters down, Egon affirms this is private property.
Yes.
Did you get that, Michael? Yeah, and that was very. I mean, Not hey, you can't be here, go away, we're fine. No, this is private property. A very particular line to say. In this sense, it's Peck, not Gozer, who represents the film's true villain. Others note that after losing their university jobs, like others note, this is very obvious, Aykroyd's character is upset because their public sector funding required little of them.
Yes.
And he had worked in the private sector where they expect results. And he says that, and it's quite obvious he says that, and there's like a 1 second pause, like you can't miss it. It's like very much affirming this right-wing ideology, and you can't miss it. Basically, that's the thing.
Yeah, I think it's like the most obvious joke. It's just like literally pauses for the laugh track.
But there's the thing. It's not a laugh track moment though. Is it?
The acknowledgement track.
Reitman agrees, and of course, I guess it could be funny in another way, but that wouldn't be that great. But yeah, so Reitman considered himself a conservative/libertarian, which is not surprising at all. I am shocked. No, I'm not shocked.
He's literally called Right Man.
And he's Canadian as well. He's not even American. Fucking twat.
He probably moved to America to be in a more right-wing country, because Canada's not so right-wing.
Yes.
Well, I liked actually. I really appreciated the scene where there was somebody who had a ghost infestation, but because they couldn't afford to pay the Ghostbusters, they died because the Ghostbusters wouldn't pay do it because they weren't getting money.
Yes, but so we don't have that scene, unfortunately.
I also liked when somebody suggested that maybe the Ghostbusters should be funded by taxes, so everybody can have equal access to the protection from ghosts, because you never know when somebody could be struck by ghosts. And then the brave politician says that people should have the choice about what ghost protection plan they want to have, and people shouldn't be forced into doing it because that's slavery. Yeah,
exactly. So, yes, the choice. The Washington Examiner wrote that the private sector arrives to combat the supernatural activity in New York for a fee, while the government is incapable of doing anything. Again, it's so obvious. The government representative is motivated to release the Ghostbusters after being reminded the success will save the lives of millions of registered voters.
Yeah.
A cynical view of an official who is motivated by what allows him to retain his position. Again, they don't actually care about the welfare of the citizens. They only care about protecting themselves, which I think you can say a lot about politicians. You know, I mean, it's true of a lot of politicians, but again, like, do you think private businesses are interested in protecting citizens? Do you think that's what they're motivated by? Anyway, so the mayor's choice is ideological: the privatized free market of the Ghostbusters or the government agency, and of course, he chooses the right choice. Author Ralph Clare highlights the Ghostbusters reside in a disused firehouse and drive an old ambulance, each sold off as public services fail. Basically, Caucus suggests that the Ghostbusters are an example of the American freethinker, representing vigilantes fighting against the government's overreach that is worsening the issue. The film embraces the free market in the aftermath of the American financial despair, particularly New York, that led to the film set in a gritty, collapsing, crime-ridden and failed New York, such as Taxi Driver, Warriors, and Escape from New York. Ghostbusters was created at the beginning of an economic recovery that Claire described as pure capitalism focused on the privatization and deregulation to allow the private sector to supplant the government. The necessity of the mayor outsourcing the ghost problem mirrors the real New York government's ceding vast areas of real estate to corporations to stimulate renewal. And of course, that hasn't had an effect nowadays. It's not like, everything is so expensive in New York City or any major city in America. That hasn't had severe long-term effects. Basically the use of capitalism can be further seen in one example. Ray, once tasked to empty his mind, is incapable of recalling anything but a consumerist mascot. Or another example, Dina's refrigerator, which stores consumerist icons, is where she witnesses Zool. So that's interesting. I'm not sure that was intended to be the case. But,
that's true, yeah.
Slipped in making, intention matters.
Yeah, capitalism is so bad that you just accidentally criticize it when you make your films. You can't even stop yourself.
I guess
to be fair,
true.
though, it's kind of good that he did remember the mascot, because if it would have been me, they would have been attacked by a giant Stalin.
Okay, that's funny. Imagine they were attacked by a Stalin or Gorbachev at the time. That would have been good. Anyway, so that's one aspect of it being right wing. Its economic approach, how it views this movie views the free market and private business as the saviors, and the government agencies as the ones holding things back. But also
another section. Government agencies?
the EPA and stuff. But there's another section on Wikipedia called Inequality, Immigrants and Pollution. It's great that this is in a Ghostbusters like kids movie, but it's true. It's relevant. You can't miss it, really. The ghosts in the film have been interpreted as analogues for crime, homelessness, pollution, and faltering infrastructure and public services. Caucus discussed Ghostbusters' negative take on government environmental regulation. Ghosts represent pollutants, remnants of environmental damage, and a reflection of real-life governments refusing to acknowledge environmental problems that affect humanity. The EPA explicitly does not believe in ghosts or waste the Ghostbusters are collecting in, and in turn the Ghostbusters do not believe the EPA deserves obedience or compliance because of its ignorance. Even though the Ghostbusters have condensed a widespread problem into a small area, they have constructed a dangerous containment unit in a heavily populated area while possessing the unique knowledge to understand how much danger it possesses. However, Peck's rigid adherence to government regulation results in him turning off the unit and creating a more dangerous situation. That's more just anti-government stuff, really. It's not really to do with pollution, I would say, necessarily, Caucus. But yes, this is also interesting. Claire identified the ghosts as representatives of New York's issues with homelessness and ethnic minorities. The ghosts, which were once human, are not acknowledged as such. That's pretty key, and are treated as a nuisance that the Ghostbusters transport to less desirable areas, similar to real-world gentrification. So that's interesting, because that's the thing. They are human. And, they're not, they're just chilling, really. They're just eating stuff, they're driving cars, really. Like, they're not being like a menace to society, apart from the fact that they're there. Yeah. But what I found fascinating about this movie was that the Ghostbusters don't seek to understand the ghosts, what they are. They're just like, and of course we talked about it, like, it's pest control. So let's capture these ghosts and let's shove them, in this fucking, I don't know, whatever it is.
Look, you've got to remember, working for ICE, it's just a job.
Yeah, it's just a job, but that's the thing. It's, these ghosts, well, are they actually some of them are almost human. And I think it's interesting when, on one of the magazines, there's a headline which is, do ghosts have civil rights? And it's kind of meant to mock that idea. Like, of course ghosts don't have civil rights. Of course they don't. But I'm like, well, they're just, they're intelligent to some degree, you'd have to assume. And you just immediately like, look them up. They're a nuisance, basically. Yeah, there's no understanding of them at all. They don't. Yeah, everyone just like, they're a problem. Let's get rid of them. And the thing is, of course, the big bad guy at the end, he wants to destroy everything. Sure, okay, get rid of him, kill, or fucking what's he called, Gozer?
Yeah,
kill Gozer.
Yeah, Gozer, more like Gozer away.
Yeah, but what about the fucking the ghost in the library?
Yeah.
Yeah, are you gonna lock her up for eternity? Are you gonna do that? I mean, that's the thing. Like, once you think about it, suddenly it's like, oh yeah, actually, it's quite a right wing way to view.
Yeah, shouldn't we be tackling the causes of hauntings rather than stuffing ghosts into overcrowded containment units?
Legitimately, yes. Legitimately, yes. Basically, we're talking about, ICE and gentrification, but yeah, Ghostbusters promotes the regeneration of New York, but ignores the cost to the poor and disenfranchised to achieve it. But yeah, that is an issue with Ghostbusters, and I was. Do you think it's weird how they don't focus on the ghosts at all, Michael? Like, who the ghosts actually are?
I mean, it's an extension of, obviously, the fact that they don't really do much investigating. I think thematically, it's, I kind of wonder to what extent it was more like an oversight, but I guess you could say even in it being an oversight, there is something there. Like, it doesn't really explore why the ghosts are who they are.
Yeah, ghosts, of course, they don't exist. So I will say that it's not that big a deal. But again, it's like, once you think about it, it's one of those moments where you think about it, you're like, oh yeah, it is quite a right-wing view of the situation.
It's not like in Supernatural where Dean has an existential crisis about how actually ghosts just, they shouldn't just be judged because they actually go through harsh things. And he realizes that actually, ultimately when we're pushed through intense torture, we all do bad things, which is, of course, a culmination of the arc where Dean goes to hell between seasons 3 and 4, and then he actually gets tortured and ends up getting a deal from the devil where he ends up torturing people so he can be released from torture himself.
Okay, well, there we go. That's fascinating. Thank you for that. But also there's a section on immaturity. So basically they... people say like,
I know why there's a section on immaturity because it comes from a libertarian stance.
That's good. But yeah, basically the central characters are infantilized and immature, and yeah, that's perfect for the 1980s. Yeah, it's absolutely perfect. Like the people who grew up in this generation and grew up watching this movie, perfect. Absolutely, especially the male audience. You do.
Yeah, typical men.
Absolutely perfect. Typical.
They're just so immature, aren't they? I tell you what, men probably wish that this film had more farts in it.
It's not. Yeah, it's just the attitude
I know,
to the world.
yeah.
I guess. Yeah,
it's very Generation Xy.
Direct correlation to whether you support like Black Lives Matter. Not
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. Should I pick Black Lives Matter? You care about social injustice, shall I say?
Yeah.
And whether you grew up watching Ghostbusters.
That's true. Yeah.
Direct correlation. So yeah, there you go. And therefore,
we would have solved climate change by now. COP26 wouldn't have needed to happen if it weren't for Ghostbusters. Changed my mind.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Literally, the fucking EPA. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't. They don't know what they're talking about in fucking Glasgow. They don't.
Yeah.
They have no idea what they're on about. Anyway, so I just wanted to talk about there's the legacy. Of course, it's got a big legacy. Merchandising was massive after this. Spin-offs were launched.
Jedward.
It reversed the negative perception of New York City in the early 1980s, and of course because it had this perception as a crime-ridden hellhole. Much different to today, especially among right-wingers. They definitely think a lot differently. And I was thinking, that's how you get like Friends and Seinfeld set in New York in the 1990s. It's like, oh yeah, New York's a nice place to live again after that. But yeah, so obviously, we could talk about the logo. Basically, it's a good logo. I mentioned that before. They get all the stuff around the outside, like the logo's good, the tech, like the proton packs, they look good. But I mean, I'm just saying they look good. That's all. And obviously, the Ectomobile, the fucking car.
Yes.
The car's iconic as well. Every little detail around the outside, it works, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a very good. They've really got good brand recognition. Funnily enough.
No, they do. They literally do have good brand recognition. And that's the thing with Ghostbusters Afterlife, which we're gonna guess the score for in a bit. Yeah. There's a lot of apparently it goes deep into the lore of Ghostbusters, whatever the fuck that means.
That sounds good.
Yeah, there's a lot of Easter eggs in it, and yeah, it is quite a everything about this movie stands out and is kind of iconic, and of course that works with the theme being right wing and pro capitalism. Because you want to milk as much money after that, so you can have toy. It's not just a normal car; it's a specific looking car, so you can sell that as the Ghostbusters car, and people want to buy that. And the Ghostbusters logo is iconic, so people want T-shirts with that logo on it. So it all works perfectly, Michael. That's synergy. That's what that is. When the theme connects with, I guess, the marketing. That's beautiful. But let's talk. Let's conclude now.
Yes,
you go first.
This film is. The thing is, apart from anything else, it is entertaining and it is. Enjoyable to watch. It's a classic, and I think it's kind of a classic in one of those senses of, it's not some mind-blowingly fantastic thing, but it's more like, if you watch it, you're not going to have a bad time. Which I think is, there's lots of classics like that, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Ultimately, I didn't find this film hilarious, but in some sense it's like, it doesn't really desperately need to be laugh out loud funny, because I think the overall kind of just feel of the film works. And to be honest, in some sense, I mean, maybe it would be a bit jarring if it was like a film that really had like proper standout jokes. I mean, obviously, there are uniquely enjoyable jokes, but I mean, like jokes that make themselves kind of obvious. Overall, I think I'm not so enthusiastic about it. I can actually give it more than a high 6, because ultimately I think it's definitely better than average. But ultimately, I think there are films which I enjoy more, and I would probably, there's films I would give a 7. I think I enjoy more, so I'm gonna give it a high 6.
Okay, so you gave it a high 6, Michael. You know what? I think. Well, I'll just tell you what I think first. So I think it's a very easy to watch movie. That's what the sense I get, and of course it's a bit lazy in its plot progression. Sorry, I'm going to use that word, lazy.
You mean casual?
That's the thing. It does fit because it's like it's a casual movie with the casual style of comedy with Venkman and how the Ghostbusters view their job, and it's just it's the nicest movie to flick on. I don't really understand how this became a cultural phenomenon, but again, like movie, it's the concept, I guess. That's why, along with Bill Murray being funny again, which I don't really understand as much as I could perhaps, because of course in Caddyshack he was praised, and I was like, yeah, I don't really get how he's funny in that really as well, but I guess that has to be part of it. But yeah, the concept of catching ghosts, inherently interesting, and people like it. And yeah, it's it makes sense why it was good, and of course you could flick this on and just enjoy it, but just don't think about the Reaganomics, injected into the movie when Harold Ramis goes, "This is private property," or when Aykroyd says, "You can't afford to slack off in the private sector. They expect results." Just try to remain calm, Michael. Just try to remain calm. Yeah, that's the strategy. Now, obviously, you can ignore that easily, and I think you can still have a good time. But I'm still going to mark it down because of that, because that ideology, Michael, is it's bullshit. It's bullshit. And like you said, I mean, the issue. I mean, you brought it up before. What happens if you've got a ghost problem in this Ghostbusters universe? You've got a ghost problem, but you can't afford to pay the Ghostbusters. What do you do then?
Yeah. Who are you going to call? I don't know. The bank, so you can get a loan, a predatory loan.
Yeah, exactly. That's that's great. Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. But what if you can't afford
terms and
it?
conditions apply.
Terms and conditions apply. Payment up front is necessary. Like $1,000. If you can't afford it, well, then you're fucked. Again, I wouldn't rag on that fact too much, but the fact that it's a central part of the movie and it's intentional, that deserves to be ragged on. So I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10.
Goodie.
Which I think is fair. Again, still a positive-ish review. Anyway, Michael, let's predict Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Okay.
On Rotten Tomatoes,
yes,
obviously.
All right.
So, all right, 3. Have you got a score in your head?
Yes.
Okay, let's go. By the way, I'm ahead by 4
Ooh.
right now. Oh, yeah, okay. So, 3, 2, 1.
65.
68.
Okay.
God.
So there's a chance that I could be only 1 away.
1 behind.
Yeah.
So you've gone for 65. I've gone for 68. I get a difference of 3. So either, if it falls in between, it could be different, but most likely either I will be winning by 7 or the gap will be down to just 1. And I'll have such a slim advantage. Anyway, what are we doing next week, Michael?
Next week we are doing the wacky, crazy comedy of JFK.
JFK by Oliver Stone.
Yes.
Very different to Ghostbusters, I will say. And we're doing that because it is, of course, the anniversary of the assassination of JFK by the CIA, or whoever it was, of course, we can't say for sure. We can. On the 22nd of November. I think it might even be released on that date. And we are doing it also because it's The House of Gucci that is being released.
Which is an Oliver Stone movie.
Which is not Oliver Stone, it's a Ridley Scott movie, but of course that's about an assassination of a famous figure as well.
Yes.
So it makes sense. And yeah, 30 years, of course, for JFK. So join us next week for that. We've been selecting and reflecting on Ghostbusters. Do you love busting, Michael?
Busting makes me feel good.
Yes, it does. And let's join us next week for JFK. Who've you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.